Hi, everybody. We know that we have a paragraph style question on the AP exam this year, so I just thought it would be helpful to go through the AP's guidelines for that style question. If you don't feel like listening to me read through it, just read through it yourself. I put the link down in the description here so you can just go and read it. But let's take a look at it. I'll read through it, and maybe at the end I'll give a little my take on it. I also have done another question where I've gone through one of these actual AP questions and talked about a good strategy for trying to answer them. So let's see. This is the same document. It's posted on the AP website for Physics 1 and 2. So let's read through it. A paragraph length response to a question should consist of a coherent argument that uses the information presented in the question and proceeds in a logical, expository fashion to arrive at a conclusion. AP Physics students are asked to give a paragraph length response so they may demonstrate their ability to communicate their understanding of physics of a physical situation in a reasoned expository analysis. A student's response should be a coherent, organized, and sequential description of the analysis of a situation. The response should argue from evidence, cite physical principles, and clearly present the student's thinking to the reader. The presentation should not include extraneous information. It should make sense on the first reading. Remember, somebody's going to be grading you. They're not going to reread it over and over to try and understand what you're saying. So you really want to be clear and to the point. Okay. So those first two paragraphs, I'm just pausing here. Straightforward. They're just telling you should be writing a paragraph. It should be logical. It should be clear. It should be understood. Okay? Let's see what else. The style of the exposition is to explain and or describe like a paragraph rather than present a calculation or a purely algebraic derivation, and should be of moderate length, not long and elaborate. I think one of the problems that a lot of students have, they go to solve the problem. This is not about solving the problem. It's not about writing equations, okay? It's about using words. Paragraph questions are about words. The small bits of equations that you might want to throw in the paragraph are okay. You can put them inside the paragraph and that you could refer to it if you're talking about a relationship because of some certain equation, but do not use many equations and do not do calculations for these style problems, okay? Unless it's just to help you formulate your own ideas before you write your response. Okay. A paragraph length response will earn points for correct physics principles, as does a response to any other free response question. Of course. However, full credit may not be earned if a paragraph length response contains any of the following principles not presented in a logical order, lengthy digression within an argument, or primarily equations or diagrams with little linking prose. Basically, if you just show work, draw pictures, write equations, or if your paragraph isn't logically organized, even if there's correct physics in there, you might not get the question. You might not get the points. Now let's get into a little bit about Physics 1 and Physics 2. There's some slight differences. Okay. In AP Physics 1, the argument may include, as needed, diagrams, graphs, equations, and perhaps calculations to support the line of reasoning. The style of such response may be seen in the example problems in textbooks, which are typically a mix of prose statements, equations, diagrams, etc., that present an orderly analysis of the situation. So in AP Physics 1, it can be a little bit of a mix, okay? It can be words and equations and diagrams together, okay? I'm going to move myself a little bit. I know. There we go. AP Physics 2, the requirement for full credit for a paragraph length response is more rigorous. For example, Responses are expected to meet the standard of logical reasoning as described for AP Physics 1, but must also be presented primarily in prose form. Prose form just means using words, okay? They want less diagrams, less equations, less pictures, less graphs. Really, you're going to be explaining this in words. Physics 2 people, make sure you use almost all words. Of course, you can have an equation within a sentence, but that should be it. Okay. To reiterate, the goal is that students should be able to both analyze a situation and construct a coherent, sequenced, well-reasoned exposition that cites evidence and principles of physics and that makes sense on the first reading. Okay, so there you go. I'm going to say this right at the end. If you want more about it, go look at the other video. But a really good structure for a paragraph is using a CRE format. Maybe you've heard this before. You have a claim, you have a reason, and you have evidence. So the claim is going to be what you're trying to prove. Your reason is going to be some physics principle that supports that thing you're trying to prove. And then the evidence is going to be numbers or information or things that you've picked up from the actual question. So I actually go to an example and we'll go through that. So take a look at the other video if you think that will help you. Otherwise, hope this helps. Take care. Good luck on the test.